Hi, this is Karen Gaines, your nonprofit finance guide, and today I am going to talk about the difference between deferred revenue and restricted funding. Okay, so deferred revenue and restricted funding both have to do with a nonprofit receiving money outside of their organization. Sometimes the terms are used interchangeably, but it is important to know the difference between the two. It's important to know the difference between the two because nonprofits often receive funding from a variety of sources for a variety of reasons, and it's important that funding is categorized correctly in the financial statements. So, in general, deferred revenue has to do with receiving money in advance for the nonprofit to deliver some type of service or obligation, while restricted funding has more to do with receiving money to fulfill some type of purpose. There's typically some type of restriction on those funds. All right. So let me give you an example. So here's an example of a deferred revenue. Let's say you have a gala coming up in like 6 months, and you have individuals paying for that ticket in advance, 6 months in advance. The money you receive for the ticket for the gala event that you will be putting on will be put in deferred revenue because you receive the money in advance, but you have not delivered the service, which is the gala event. Example of restricted funding. Let's say you receive money from a donor, and the donor says, hey, I only want this money to be used for individuals who can't afford gala tickets or a gala ticket. That money will be put away for I'll put away to restricted funding because there's restrictions on it. That person who gave you that money, they're not expecting a service, some type of service or an obligation fulfilled in return. They're expecting for you to spend that money spend the money on gala tickets for individuals who can't afford the gala tickets on their own. So let me give you another example. Let's say you are awarded a grant and you receive grant funding from a grantor. So, and this funding is for providing after school activities for kids. Okay, so that money would be put in deferred revenue. So the grantor gave you money in order to provide a service, and that service is providing after school activities for kids. Now, let's say a donor provides you money, and the donor says, hey, this money should only be used for kids who are 11 and under. And the only reason you can use the money is to buy them toys. Okay, so that's restrictive. That's restricted funding. That funding is only to be used for kids 11 and under to buy toys for them. Okay. So here are some other important differences between deferred revenue and restricted funding. So deferred revenue is going to lie on the liability section of the balance sheet, while the restricted funding is going to lie in the net asset on the balance sheet. So both of them are on the balance sheet. It's just that the deferred revenue is in the liability section, while the restricted funding is in the net asset section of the balance sheet. Okay, which is the equity section of the balance sheet. When is revenue earned? Well, revenue is earned when it comes to deferred revenue. Revenue is earned when you've provided services. And, that can be all at once or incrementally as you deliver that service. Restricted funding when it comes to restricted funding, revenue is earned when restrictions have been satisfied. So if you go out and purchase those toys for those kids, that is when you pull that money out of restricted funding and recognize it as revenue. Okay, so who uses deferred revenue and restricted funding? Now, deferred revenue can actually be used by both for-profit entities and nonprofit entities. Like anybody can use deferred revenue, but restricted funding is generally only used by nonprofits. Like you're not going to see like a for-profit business with restricted funding. If it is out there, I'm sure it's like used in very rare situations, but restricted funding is more so for nonprofit entities when donors contribute money for specific purposes. Okay. So just, overall, in summary, deferred revenue focuses on delivering a service, on fulfilling an obligation, while restricted funding is it more so focuses on a specific purpose. Fulfilling the restriction that was put in place for that funding. Okay, so I hope this video has been helpful for you. Let me know what you all think. If you're watching via YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a great day.